Now join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. I just wanted to comment. I know many of you in the room were there on Sunday night, but and this isn't necessarily a plug to get you all more involved in doing more stuff, but if it ends up that way, so be it. Sunday night, we had our 5th annual. Do you want to turn down? Yeah. People are just going to stare at you. Yeah, I know these people. Yeah, I mean, if you want that, you're welcome to sit. You could sit here if you want to. Yeah. Do you have a Tibetan practice or something?
No, I just sitting on the floor.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's in Tibetan Buddhism especially, and it's funny. It's always the person sitting there. This has happened for years. Every so often, once every 5 months, somebody sits that way. Am I totally embarrassing you right now? Okay, cool. Hey. She can clearly speak for herself. Thank you very much. Yes. But in Tibetan Buddhism specifically, there's a lot of reverence to kind of the Tibetan lamas that would come in, the gurus per se, and they all will they do that no matter where they are. And as they're walking in, everybody turns and faces them and does this. And as they go, so every time I see someone in this space, like I said, I don't know why it's never on this side. It's always on this side. They sit like that. I immediately think of Tibetan Buddhists who are about to bow to the guru. And if anything, it probably makes me feel more weird than you, because I feel like you're potentially viewing me in that light. So it's my way of intercepting that and being I'm just some dude. You don't need to do that, But knowing that that's not the case, please feel free to sit however you would like. And thank you for speaking for her, because I know she wouldn't have been able to do it by herself, I'm Jeff. It's your first time here, huh? Yeah. I try to make people's first visits memorable, so yeah. And your names are? Go ahead, you can speak. Keith. Erica. I just want to know who's going to leave the bad Google review, so when I see it. Yeah. Well, welcome to the Dharma Bum Temple. That kind of sums it up, really. But yeah, so anyway, so continuing on. So Sunday night, we had our 5th annual volunteer appreciation event. And I just pointed out because for me, I think it's one of the greatest things around here. Probably about 6 years ago, we were downstairs and there were 2 people standing at the counter. Both had been around 10 plus years and had been so instrumental in doing so many things at this space. And it was at that moment of time we realized those 2 people, they had no idea who the other was. One would be here on a Monday, one would be here on a Thursday, whatever it was. Those 2 people had never actually crossed paths. And so we started doing a volunteer appreciation event, obviously to, make volunteers feel appreciated. But around a Buddhist temple, I mean, we are human and people do want to feel appreciated. But for the most part, we're pretty lucky the last 19 years where volunteers aren't they're not really looking for too much from their volunteer time at a temple, which is nice, but they still like to feel appreciated. And so we have this event, but if nothing else, it's really an opportunity for a lot of people who've seen each other's names on GroupMe or heard about each other, things like that, to actually meet. And so part of that is at the beginning, the first hour, everybody comes up and kind of introduces themselves briefly because, we always have a lot of food downstairs, and shares kind of their experience around here. And for me, it's a really beautiful opportunity to kind of just listen to everybody who reflects on what their experience is. And the reason I bring this up is the greatest, I think how can I put this? Greatest is the wrong word. I think the deepest sense of practice really comes from, and the people who've been around the longest really do come from those who volunteer in some capacity. And again, this is not a plug to get volunteers. We've got like 100 of volunteers, so we're good. I mean, we can always use more, but this isn't about that. But it really goes to show that the more you take care of something, the deeper you feel a part of it. And the deeper connected you feel to the Sangha, which is the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the community. And so it's really beautiful to listen to probably 70, 80 people come up here and share about their experience and what it means to them. And that's where, for me, I really begin to hear the depth of what a place like this, and there's tons of Buddhist temples around. I don't care where you go or where you're of service to, but for me, it's a really beautiful moment to listen to the depth of what people actually receive from the practice of giving. And the Buddhist teachings around dana, which is generosity, which has nothing to do with money, it's giving time, attention, heart, smile, a hug, whatever it might be. He also taught very clearly that the Buddhist practice of generosity, one should feel pleasant before, pleasant during, and pleasant after. So when you go through your day and you're helping people, kind of recognize, does this feel pleasant before? Does this feel pleasant during? And does this feel pleasant after? Anyone in here do things just hoping and expecting to feel something good from it, right? And so that never, thank you. There's always one who's never felt that way. Thanks, Carol. And so this teaching really is this attachment that we want to get something from giving. And like I said, we're human. We want to feel good when we give. But ultimately, the practice is to have that fall away, and we begin to give just for the sake of giving, just for the sake of helping others, just for the sake of being of service. And so that practice, the Buddha's second noble truth, the cause of our suffering, which is greed, the way you overcome that is to practice dana, which is generosity. Buddhism in America, they ruined it and they twisted dana to they call it money. It has nothing to do with money. The Buddha was also very clear that he taught his monks, you do not teach what dana is about until after somebody had practiced, because he didn't want them to use it as guilt or pressure or manipulation to try to get people to practice what true dana actually was. So again, dana, for those of you who've been around the Buddhist world or maybe coming from kind of Western Buddhism, which is for the most part everyone in this room, especially in specific lineages or traditions with the word dana, dana is not money at all. Dana literally means generosity. You get a lot of Buddhist teachers out there who say, now is an opportunity to practice dana. And they give you what's called the dana talk, and then they want a bunch of money. That's not dana. That's pressure, guilt, and manipulation. True dana, true generosity is pleasant before, pleasant during, pleasant after. So always keep that in mind with practice. And then really begin to explore kind of on this Bodhisattva practice, Bodhisattva path, where are you of service in your life? And it has nothing to do with doing stuff here at the Dharma Bum Temple. But think about where in your lives do you practice generosity? Where in your lives do you help others, family, friends, community, whatever it might be? It can be as simple as going, walking through the grocery store, in the parking lots, buying somebody's coffee, maybe in line, whatever it might be. Just how do you practice being generous to others? Because in that practice of generosity, you're overcoming the attachment to the sense of what? Self. And why do we all suffer so much? Because of our attachment to self. So there's, very practical reasons from kind of the Buddhist lens and Buddhist teachings about how to overcome that attachment to the sense of self. Just go help people. And when we help people, we feel good. And when we help people, we're not thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about others. And then we get home and then you're on the couch and you're miserable and depressed again because you're thinking about yourself. So then get up, get off your ass and go out and help more people. Right? It's just a real simple formula. Just go help people. Don't think about yourself so much. You'll make yourself miserable. In case y'all haven't figured that out by now. But here we are on a Saturday morning. So I guess as we understand that. So I'm going to start with a meditation practice. To those who are joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps. Slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, just relaxing the shoulders. If comfortable, hands are on the knees or lap, if comfortable. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Knowing throughout the practice, you'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. These are not distractions. These are not disruptions. Simply what's happening around us as we sit. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Returning attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from your practice, just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move, and most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. And ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. Has nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, and disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. It helps you become aware of your life that's a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess so you can make changes in your life. Meditation is simply direct perception into the present moment and an awareness of what you think, what you say, and what you do in each moment. Buddha called this karma. Karma is not what goes around comes around. Karma is not getting what you deserve or them getting what they deserve. Karma is what we bring into the world with body, speech, and mind, thoughts, words, and actions. This is our karma. It's what we give, not what we get. So the practice is to become mindful and aware of everything we think, everything we say, and everything we do. That's it. That never changes. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody you encounter every moment of your life. And that's it. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, which is where we spend so much of our time hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that. So much time focused on the actions of others. And I'm not suggesting that the actions of others are not important. They are. But this practice is not about changing the actions of others. This practice is about changing our own actions. Because it's a lot easier to point fingers and blame everybody else for all the problems in the world. It's very difficult to look in the mirror and realize maybe I'm causing some issues as well somewhere in my life. And to be honest and reflect on that. What do I think? What do I say? What do I do? And how does that impact those around me? That's the practice. Which is why it's so much fun. You get to actually be honest with all of your mess. And it's quite a joy. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always really prefer responding to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And to those joining virtually, again, welcome. Feel free to say hello as you are. If you have any questions, put them on the chat box. I'll do my best to respond. And we'll use the rest of our brief time this morning for questions.
Listening to you talk in the beginning, you were talking about generosity and helping. It sounded like some of the 12-step programs to really fully recover. When you're done, you've got to help someone else. That's where it really comes in. And so it just kind of solidified that a bit. But what's going on in my life right now, that's also part of that. One of my sons moved in. Can I stay for 2 days within the 7th week? And I feel like, for him to want to come to stay in my place, he must be hurting somewhere. He's finding some comfort there. So I'm trying to just, you finish the pepper, replace it. The honey, where's the honey? It's gone. Where's this? It's gone. And I'm really ready to say enough is enough.
Yeah.
And then what you were talking about, just kind of, all right, look.
Yeah.
Just be a little generous. I don't want to enable him, but I do want to help him as a father can. So I'm doing my best, but you talk helpful. Thanks.
So you mean you don't think at his age he moved in with his dad just because he loved and missed his father? You don't think that's what's going on? It's possible. You're a nice guy, Al, So I want to bond with my dad, Yeah. But no, I mean, you bring up, you're a good human for, opening the doors and letting them be there. And often when, with children, especially like, newborns and things like that, there's kind of this common expression or joke about, you now have a new Zen teacher, and your son is not a newborn anymore, but he is quickly become your greatest teacher again, because I'm just highlighting what you said, but the examples of, when you're done with the pepper or whatever it might be, like in the grand scheme of things, everything you're talking about, do those things really matter other than you have an idea and you're stuck in patterns, you're stuck in how you want things to be. And now, like you said, it's beautiful. You see, he's struggling. And so to be there for him in that manner is really, really beautiful. And then it's a challenge of your patience and your practice, because ultimately his suffering compared to the tremendous suffering you experience when the pepper doesn't go back into the right place. When you weigh those two levels of suffering, because he's in his, 30? How old is he? 28. Yeah. So, a 28-year-old putting the pepper in the wrong place versus, or finishes, whatever it is. Oh, well, then that's different, But yeah, it is, it's a great practice. And, we look at Buddhist teachings of the two wings of wisdom and compassion, and the compassion is to open your heart to him, which you are. And the wisdom says, okay, what's more important here? And obviously being a resource for him in any way you can is beautiful. Yeah. Thanks. What else? What's up, man?
My question is about fear. I've heard it said that faith and fear cannot coexist, and that is bullshit. And I'll tell you why. As you know, I have epilepsy, and it causes a lot of suffering. Doctors have come back and said we could probably get rid of it by doing surgery. And they want to take out about 10% of my brain, the whole right temporal lobe, because that's where the seizures are coming from. And I have utter faith in the doctors. They're the top gun of doctors there at UCSD. It's a level 4 epilepsy center, and the holy shit, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
It can cause a lot of problems.
Yeah, it could. You're right. And it can make things better. Could go either way. Do you know which way it's going to go? So what good is fear doing you? Easier said than done, of course, right? It's kind of this, I love this, I heard years ago, an acronym for fear: false evidence appearing real. And very often with fear and anxiety around things that are happening, we usually don't sit around thinking like, wow, I'm so worried about something that could turn out absolutely better than I'm anticipating. Because it could. And it could also go the other way. You don't know. But to panic and have fear about something that you have ultimately no control over doesn't serve you at all. The other way to look at it is, you're afraid. What's wrong with that? It's okay to be afraid. I know you're conditioned to not be afraid, but you're afraid. Great. Be afraid. Does that change anything? Because what I'm hearing is actually your resistance to fear. That you're asking that question, and I've known you a long time, almost as if there's something wrong with being afraid. Be afraid. You're potentially going in for brain surgery. That's pretty scary. As you know, Buddhist practice doesn't solve problems. It highlights the reality of a situation. To me, it is a reflection on ultimate reality. That's what the Buddha was teaching. Not to twist what we see, not to spin what we see, not to have fear or sadness or loneliness destroy us, but to look at what's really happening. What's really happening is you have a medical condition, you have a potential opportunity to have a procedure, and a million different things could happen. And all your fear in the world doesn't change that. So, when hungry, my favorite Zen quote, when hungry, eat, when tired, sleep, when afraid, be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. Yeah. And whatever you decide, you decide. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's a question here. From Cinda. This may be an unanswerable question. I've always craved a world of fairness and kindness. This will never happen. The end of craving is also a craving. Can one stop craving? So first I want to say, very often, and I'm not suggesting that you are with this question, but it comes to mind, so I'm going to say it. Very often around Buddhist teachings, we may question certain things, and we may think certain things aren't possible simply because we can't do it. So very often with things, we may say, well, there's no way that could happen. But very often that's coming from our own lens of whether we can or can't accomplish something. So the simple, again, I don't really think this is necessarily the heart of your question. But this idea of can one stop craving, the very simple answer, according to very fundamental basic Buddhist teachings, is yes, you can stop craving. Is it easy to do? No. But we have to look at what are the cravings we have and why are they there? And then you go back to the beginning of your question, which says, I've always craved a world of fairness and kindness. Does anyone in here think does anyone in here crave a world of fairness and a world of kindness? What's fascinating is everyone in this room has a different opinion and view and perception of what is fair. You also have a completely different view and perception of what is kind. Don't make the assumption that just because you're in a Buddhist place, you all have the same views. I know a lot of you, and you don't. Everyone in this room has different views and opinions of what fairness is and what kindness is. So this idea of craving fairness and craving kindness comes from a place of thinking that you know what is what is right. And as I always joke, it's so wonderful to sit on Saturday mornings with a room filled of people who are always right, right? That's the reality as we roam through our day. And this is where the Buddhist teachings on self come into play and non-self, is that we think our perception of reality is correct. And this is the ignorance. The ignorance is we think our views are correct. The late Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Zen master, poet, peace activist, said all views are wrong. He said freedom from suffering, which is nirvana, liberation, freedom from suffering, is freedom from views. And the first time I heard this teaching, my view was like, well, I don't like that. So I had a view about this great Zen master, probably one of the most enlightened beings of our time, said all views are wrong. And my view was like, well, that's wrong. And then I began to realize that I was stuck in my views. So the way I have kind of, coming back to the question, the way I have kind of twisted or spun that in my head to become a form of practice is to recognize I have my views, as do all of you. They will change over time. Some will get stronger, some will get weaker, some will go away, but our views will change. There are people and places and things in your life that at some point in your life you really loved, and now maybe you don't. And there are maybe people and places and things in your life right now that maybe you don't like at all, and then maybe someday you will. Your views will change. So for me, this idea of all views are wrong, what I began to understand is that my views are impermanent. They are changing. Even if I think, well, that view is never going to change. Well, then that's ignorant for me to think that my view is never going to change on something. Then as I talk about on Sundays, then I've kind of closed the box around it, thrown away the key and said, this is it. So this idea, coming back to fairness and kindness, I also want to point out before I get too far from this question, which is the Buddha taught that there are healthy cravings. Without the craving, which is kind of along the lines of your question, Cinda, without the craving to suffer less, right? Most people don't come to places like this because you want more suffering in your life, right? We come to this because we want to find peace and happiness and joy and whatever words you want to use to describe that feeling that you're craving. Without that craving, you wouldn't be here. And I don't mean physically here. I mean, you wouldn't be on some sort of spiritual path trying to get peaceful and kind and happy. So those cravings are motivating. They're inspiring. And we use them to cultivate loving kindness and compassion. Then there's also a whole list of cravings in our lives. We don't have enough time to touch on all of them today that are unhealthy in your life. So the question isn't about should you abandon cravings? Are cravings good or bad or right or wrong? Explore what are the cravings in your life. Do they benefit you or harm you? Do they benefit others or harm others? The practice of non-self is to understand, what am I doing to be a benefit to others? I mean, that is literally the Bodhisattva Path in Buddhist teachings, is to be reborn life after life until all beings are free from suffering. If you're not into rebirth, reincarnation, life after life, doesn't even matter. Just think about the vow of waking up every single day, and the only thing you care about is making sure that everyone is free from suffering. But what that means is we have an idea of what we think people need to do to be free from suffering. We're not correct. We all have a view of what we think would end suffering for everybody. If everyone just did everything you wanted them to all the time, then they would be free from suffering. No. This practice, which is where wisdom comes in, is to understand that everybody is suffering for different reasons. Can you begin to explore, why are people suffering? Or do you see someone suffering and then find out they have a different view than you and then just dismiss them and say, well, I'm glad they're suffering? Sadly, that's what a lot of people do. Or you think they deserve that suffering. Nobody deserves to suffer. Nobody. So this practice is to liberate all beings from suffering, but to begin to understand why we suffer. And to have that craving to and desire for people to suffer less, which in essence is what your question is a beautiful craving, a beautiful desire, and I think very healthy to have. Otherwise, things can get really dangerous. So what else? Oh yeah, Cinda said, yes, I crave my definition of fairness and kindness. So, so there's a question here. Tyler, clearly you've been reading a lot. The question says, could you please describe how a practitioner enacts karma, particularly in relation to dependent origination? So any basic intro to Buddhism book, your first 2 or 3 Buddhist books, you're going to come across karma and dependent origination. As I always say at the end of the meditation practice, that pratitya samupata, dependent origination, is the causal relationship of all phenomena. And it was that realization that led to the Buddha's awakening, that everything is conditioned upon something else for its existence, also known as karma, the law of cause and effect. Things happen. So your question really is about, it's hard on text, but it throws me off a little bit to think about how one would enact karma in relationship to dependent origination, because what I want to point out is karma is not, and maybe I'm just reading this wrong, but karma is not something that like you choose whether or not you want it to happen. Karma is just happening. What I mean by that is we are having thoughts, we are having words, and we are having actions. Various times, various ways, various levels throughout our lives. But every moment, we are in essence enacting karma. As the Buddha taught, every thought, every word, and every physical action plants a karmic seed. So we are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every breath that we are alive, we are bringing karma into the world. And how that plays into dependent origination is that dependent origination, causal relationship of all phenomena, means, do we understand? So the example I love to use around here. So those of you who are sitting on like a wooden pew right now, right? There's like 3 rows of chairs and then 3 rows of pews, or the pews in the back, right? Those of you who are sitting on the wooden pews, other than all of you who've heard me say this, do you have any idea who Emanuel Swedenborg is? Who is he?
He was a Christian or Christian-ish leader of a Swedenborgianism.
Yeah.
18th century Scandinavian.
Yeah.
18th century.
This is great because sounds like you really know who he is, but do you also know that this was his church?
I do.
Oh, okay. Well, you kind of bursted my bubble, but either way, that's still great. I thought you knew who he was totally independently of this. But my point is, without Emanuel Swedenborg, who lived 18th century, this was their local congregation, came together in the 20s. They built this building in 1927. They were going to tear it down in 2016. We bought it, and here we are, right? After 10 years downtown, we bought it, moved here 8, 9 years ago. So without Emanuel Swedenborg, who was born 17-something, you wouldn't be sitting on that pew right now. Your karma meaning your actions that led you to those seats, are deeply tied to the actions of Emanuel Swedenborg. Christian mystic, Swedenborgian congregation. They built this church in the 20s, and now here we are. Without Emanuel Swedenborg's life, and without every thought, every word, and every action you have done and taken and put into your existence, none of us are sitting here right now. So you got a few hundred years and you got your life. And because those things have all come together, here we are. Now I want you to apply that to something. I suggest you apply that. Not that this doesn't matter, but I was going to say to something that matters. Anyone angry at someone? Anyone have resentment towards someone? Anyone disappointed in someone in their life, either from this morning or 50 years ago? Right? Is it possible that you don't know every single thing they've ever experienced in their life? You don't know what trauma they went through. You don't know what suffering they went through. You don't know what pain they went through. You don't know what actions occurred in their life. We don't know what other people are carrying. Yet we interact with them, we encounter them, and we see something that harms us. And then we create a story around that. And we often stay there and we don't want to move on from it, without understanding the causal relationship of all phenomena that led people to do certain things, which does not make what they did was right. It does not excuse harmful actions. It does not justify things that people do. But dependent origination understands the causal relationship of all phenomena, which says everything is happening as is our lives, and those lives intersect. So that, at this moment, is the best way I can explain karma and dependent origination and how they play together. What else? Yeah.
Can we work to choose our actions or our causes in order to make certain effects, but then not be disturbed by whatever effects occur? And
Yeah.
say, be curious as to why that effect occurred versus the effect we were expecting?
Yes.
Okay.
We can. So let me try to paraphrase that for those virtually maybe didn't hear it because the sound comes from up here. If I understood your question correctly, the question was, can we work to, I'll obviously use my words, paraphrase, but can we work to, in kind of the choices we make around karmic, thoughts, words, and actions, in those choices, we are making those choices with some idea or expectation of how we want things to play out from that choice. And when they play out differently from how we expect them to play out, can we observe that without kind of being attached to the outcome? That kind of your question?
Yes.
Yeah. Still yes. Yeah. And again, this goes back to kind of similar to last week, around your question in a similar way, which is we are very often attached and we have expectations of what we want from people and places and things. And so, Venerable Yijur, Buddhist nun, my first teacher, she said, Jeff, the path is to learn to expect nothing from anyone ever. And, for 22 years, that's been my practice. It's not an easy one. I'm not saying it is. But again, for those who might be hearing this teaching or these practices for the first time, to not expect things doesn't mean that it's okay to be treated like crap. You're in unhealthy, toxic, dangerous, abusive situations. Having no expectations doesn't mean you stay there and continue to be abused. Remove yourself from that situation. But having no expectations of how people should be is a completely different issue. When we are in unhealthy, dangerous, toxic situations, wisdom would say, remove yourself from that. but we roam around, and I just like to throw that out there as an asterisk for somebody who, you know, might be new, but we roam around very often with heavy expectations tied to everything and everyone. Very often we say things and we want a reaction. We get in conversation, we want a reaction. We pick out certain shoes to wear, we want a reaction. So much of our existence is tied to, that's funny. I'll tell the story briefly, but to sum it up, this morning, I saw like some old school, not even that old school, because these looked actually kind of new, but old school, like Adidas shoes. And not like Converse old school, but just like Adidas. But it triggered in my head. I remember being like 14, 15 years old. And like, those were like, in my mind, the cool things to wear. So I wanted to wear them. And I wanted to wear, and so as I was looking at them, you know, I had a flashback to 35 years ago of when I wanted these shoes. Now, I didn't want them because they did anything for me. I didn't want them. It had nothing to do with like how they felt, or like they didn't make me like jump higher, or they didn't do anything. It's just the world was set up, in my view, to tell me that I should have those. So I wanted them. And as I saw those shoes just this morning, when it came up, I was like, oh, should talk about this today. And then I moved on, but now it came up again. How I was so, and this practice is telling us that we're so attached to the story that things do for us, that if I had those shoes, that meant something. Me having those shoes means nothing. But I wanted those shoes to project an image. And why do we want to project an image? Because we want what? A reaction. We want other people to think a certain way. So all those shoes were about were me trying to elicit, trying to trigger, trying to control a reaction from people. This is what the entire body of Buddhist teachings is based on. The guy was a prince, all the wealth, all the riches, had everything. And he renounced that path, shaved his head, put on a robe, had 2 of them, and spent the rest of his life as a homeless wandering beggar for 45 years before he died. To renounce his attachment to this worldly possessions and pleasures. And, you know, we're all lay Buddhists here. We're not monks, we're not nuns. I'm not suggesting you need to get rid of all of your stuff, right? But think about every single day, all of these things that you were so attached to because you wanted to tell a story about you. Like, do you really like the shoes? Or whatever article of clothing it might be? Or does it say something that you want to project? Does it send an image? Does it send a message? You know, billions of dollars are spent every year telling us what that story is. And then we buy it. I didn't mean literally, but literally we buy it. We buy into the story. This is where movies like Fight Club and The Matrix are critical. You know, Fight Club, Matrix, Groundhog Day, best Buddhist movies ever. And we're just stuck. We're stuck thinking that if we have the right soap, you know, I mean, soap. You know how many types of soap there are? It's absurd. And we are so conditioned from childhood, from birth. I always say we're screwed. Like we're all, you know, we're all in the same boat, right? As far as this goes, like we are conditioned from early childhood, and then it's just thrown at us, you know? I mean, just think about how many pages of Amazon you'll scroll through looking for the right shampoo or the right soap. It's just soap, man. So, yeah. What else? We'll do one more before we close. Yeah.
Can you talk about being fearful of the future?
I can't, but you can. Because something tells me you are fearful of the future.
Well, I think we're all fearful of the unknown, right?
No, I don't. I don't think we're all fearful of the unknown. I can't speak for anybody else. I mean, I'm personally not fearful of the unknown. You just came in, right?
Right.
Yeah, because I spoke about this like 30 minutes. I'm not highlighting the fact that you just came in, but I literally addressed like 30 minutes ago because there was a question earlier around a brain surgery and fear. And so to sum that up, I think it's important to understand that in that question, you are fearful of the future based on what you're asking, right? Okay. Have you ever had things in your life work out better than you expected? Yeah. So why do you think the future is going to turn out worse? Maybe it'll turn out better. Our view, I don't know how long, if you're brand new to Buddhism, and I'm going to try to sum this up as we wrap up here, but our entire life is based on a story we're telling ourselves. And it is quite possible your future could turn out better. Fear, there's an acronym, again, I mentioned this earlier, but false evidence appearing real. You have a story about the future. The practice of meditation and what Buddhist teachings are really getting at is helping us stay in the present moment to find gratitude and appreciation for everything you have now. You have a roof over your head, food to eat, clothes to wear, at least someone in your life who loves you. Can you stop and appreciate and love that and stay focused on that? Losing that is when things can potentially get dangerous. Hold on to that. And the art of being in the present moment says, you know what's going to happen in the future? I'm going to die. We all die. It's what happens. The Buddha said we get aging, we get birth, we get aging, we get sickness, and we get death. And along the way, there can also be tremendous gratitude and appreciation. But if we sit around all day long complaining and watching the social media and looking at the news and talking about how everybody else is screwed up and they're all destroying everything, and we come from our place of kind of entitlement and our place of privilege and everything we have, we're like, oh, but the world's a freaking mess. I'm so afraid of it all. Find gratitude and appreciation for every single thing you have in your life. And at the very least, then you can actually go through your days and enjoy things. The future is going to happen regardless. The last thing I'll say is our thinking that we have this grand control over things. Do you like to control things? Say again?
I'm trying not to.
So I'll translate that as to yes. You did just walk. Is your first time here? Yeah. So I try to be even nicer, other than embarrassing two people here for the first time. I really try to be nicer to people for the first time because I don't want to like shatter them. This stuff takes. Are you brand new to Buddhism? Yeah. Okay. So you like control and you're brand new to Buddhism. This stuff takes a while. So to sum this up in 30 seconds, just continue to learn about gratitude, appreciation for present moment. And this practice is not about controlling what others do. This practice is about surrendering control and focusing on the only thing that we potentially have control over, which is our own karma, meaning what we think and what we say and what we do, not what happens to us, not what we get, what we bring into the world. That is this practice. This practice doesn't fix the world. But this practice, if you cultivate a meditation practice and begin to learn, it will, what's your name? Carrie. It will help you, Carrie, actually enjoy your days. And if you enjoy your days and each moment, you know what you're not going to be thinking about? The future. So that's what this practice is. Enjoy and appreciate all you have now. And every once in a while, don't be afraid to think maybe the future will turn out better. You know? So you're welcome. Yeah. We'll join palms. I'll close on that. Many merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. All right, before y'all head out, our Dharma Bum host, Ann, has a few announcements for us. And as Ann is coming up, this is especially for all of you who are always or almost always here on Saturdays. We need one more Saturday host. You get to do what Ann's about to do. You get to come in 30 minutes early, open up the door. It gives you the code to the temple. So if your like secret mission is to break in at 3 a.m. and steal everything, you'll get access to the temple 30 minutes early. But we really, really, really need another Saturday host. So if anybody wants to volunteer and help out with that, let me know. You would do it probably once, maybe twice a month. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm today's host, Ann. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers. We are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted on the entry above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and bring it back whenever you are done with it. Today, I think there's going to be a mini cleaning, so if you want to participate in that. Next Sunday is our community service park cleanup in North Park, and there's a flyer in the lobby with the details.
Tomorrow.
You have 2 more days to vote on the t-shirt design contest. There are 10 options. Use the QR code, and there's one on the flyer in the lobby. And remember to hit submit, because if you don't, your vote won't count. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you all again.
Thanks, Sam.
Goodbye. So,